morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Don't mind our mess. We're at work getting ready for Pumpkin Fest. We have a lot going on, so we're going to work and talk through this if you care to follow along. We started last Monday in a rageful mode at City Hall because of everything going on. This Monday, we're here with smiles. Because of controversies, we've been beaten down, we've cried about it, we've been angry, and now we're just here and we're focused. So this morning we awoke being called liars, and we're just going to share the whole story now. So if you care, follow along. I guess things all started when we used to run Envision Rumford. I was part of Envision Rumford for 7 years. I was the secretary. I was a big part of the group. When the president stepped down, I took president seat, Jess took the secretary seat, and we tried to run Envision Rumford and bring it to something great. We had inner problems. It had nothing to do with Pumpkin Fest. So we decided to leave the group in an effort to dismantle it because it was falling apart and it has not ever recouped from that. But in that part of ways, we took Pumpkin Fest. Pumpkin Fest has always been Gasco Productions since the year 3. Envision Rumford started it for 2 years. We were vendors. We got handed Pumpkin Fest on the 3rd year because they were in fear of not making this festival the big thing that they wanted it to be, and they gave us a chance, and we got there. So upon leaving Envision Rumford, we made a deal that Pumpkin Fest, assets, funds, belongings, and everything were ours, and everything that we did and raised for Envision Rumford was theirs. It was a mutual agreement, and we left. Paperwork was drawn up that if we ever decided to not host Pumpkin Fest, that the festival would revert back to Envision Rumford, which we had no problems with. That right there is what this whole thing is about.
Since that year, there's been a fight every year, starting pretty much in July when we start announcing Pumpkin Fest. Every year, for 3 years now, there has been something brought up to try to stop this event from happening.
They're trying to get this festival permit from us because if we don't hold the festival permit, then perhaps they get the fest. Okay, so little backstory. The first 2 years, there were no sponsors of Pumpkin Fest. There was less than 100 people there. It was a very small-time festival. So when we took it over, we had to buy a town permit. That town permit cost a few $100s. So I asked Envision Rumford to pay for that permit in exchange for a sponsorship. For the first 3 years of Pumpkin Fest that we hosted, Envision Rumford was just a sponsor, and that was the only sponsor because we paid for everything out of our pockets. So we also did fireworks, which cost a lot of money and needed a lot of permissions, and we decided to forgo that. The town used to chip in $1,000 or $2,000 to pay for the fireworks as well. After that, I stopped asking the town for that money, and they agreed to, hey, we'll just waive the town permit. We'll save you a few $100. Perfect. Fast forward to these issues when they're trying to take this permit from us. I get called in last year to the town manager's office a few weeks before the festival, says, you need to get this permit. And I said, I haven't done it in 5 years. And they said, you need to get it. You need to go in front of the selectmen. But you need to have a nonprofit. And I said, okay, well, I don't have a nonprofit. We've been thinking about starting one, but we're not there yet. And
mind you, that's an ordinance. You had to be a nonprofit. It's in the ordinance. We had no clue about this. We were never told this. It's just how it's always been. We've just run it the way we've always run it.
Right. That was and that ordinance was written by Envision Rumford before I was in it, and I totally agree with it. The festival permit was presented to the town from the group because if not, everybody had to get a hawkers and peddlers license. So the festival permit covers every vendor underneath, which is why we can do our booth rentals for so cheap. Okay, so the town waived the permit for 5 years. Last year, they could not find the permit in their computer system. It took them a few days to find it because they just waived it. I thought that they waived the fee. They just did not do a permit. So last year, sitting in the town manager's office, I said, what can I do? I have an event hosting company that I've owned since 2002. I've done this festival for 8 years. I've done many events around town. You're telling me that I'm one of the only event companies in town and I can't take out a permit to run a festival that I've been running? And he said, why don't you do what you used to do and have somebody do the permit for you and all the funds go underneath your company, just like you've always done.
Somebody that has a nonprofit.
Yeah, somebody that's a nonprofit. So the town manager, back then, not the current one, but the former one, suggested to use Beautify Rumford because they're a good town group.
We're involved in that.
And we're in the group. We plant downtown with them. We've been doing it for way longer than that group's existed. So that's what we did. Beautify Rumford. We exchanged a sponsorship, and we thank them gratefully. That caused controversy for last year, and that caused a little bit of flack and a little bit of hardship, and we were kind of disappointed going into Pumpkin Fest, but we went forward with everything. Fast forward to this year, things got worse. Things got way worse. This is where we met Therea Sachs. We had barely ever heard this woman's name. I've never met her in person. She's never talked to me, much like Frank DiConzo has never talked to me. They have never come into our business. They have never approached us. They have never talked to us about anything in this town. The day we met Teresa was at the farmer's market. Now, 2 weeks before then, I emailed Envision Rumford, even though I did not want to talk to them. I emailed them because across from our old shop downtown was the dirt lot, which we used for Pumpkin Fest, and we were setting up the farmer's market right next to us. Now, the farmer's market was not ours. It was planned by Courtney from Ralph's. We used to go to the farmer's market last year, and we thought it was a great thing. Jess wanted to join because she's starting a new tea business. So we said, let's do it. We went and approached Courtney and said, I want to find you a sponsor and I want to print all your advertising. And they were more than happy. So we joined forces. 2 weeks before the farmer's market, I emailed Envision Rumford to ask about the bulletin board that Jess and I built about 5 years ago? 6 years ago? I'm not sure.
5 or 6. It was us and Steph Reed from Beautify Rumford.
And Steph, yeah. So I'm blocked. I can't go on the Envision Rumford page. But if you go on there, you'll see pictures of me building this bulletin board and a post about it. Okay, so we had permission from the insurance company that owns that dirt lot. We've had permission for years to do anything we've ever wanted as long as we show them our insurance, which is fine. That was an old farmer's market sign. It sat for many, many years. I asked to build it into a bulletin board. We put glass on it because it's a really windy stretch of the street. We put a roof on it. We stained it to match the colors that they had. We planted flowers. We made it beautiful. When we left Envision Rumford, we also left downtown. And I won't get into that. That's another story. But we left downtown, and when we did, we kind of forgot about the bulletin board. Okay, so right before the farmer's market, I went down there. The last flyer that was placed in there was placed by me for a car show at the Eagles about 2 years before. So nobody had used that bulletin board. But Envision Rumford and everybody knew the passcode for the lock for that. It was in the paperwork that we handed to Envision Rumford when we left the group. So they had no excuse not to use it. But 2 weeks before the farmer's market, and I emailed them asking if anybody could refill the dog poop bag dispenser.
Which is theirs.
Envision Rumford paid for that. We split the cost of the sign. They paid for the dog bag dispenser. They had a key, but we had some leftover bags. So we tried to coordinate an effort with them through people that we knew, that we thought were in the group, but everybody had left. And we coordinated everything for them to put the dog bags in there. Farmer's market comes a few days before. I go down there and look, there's still no bags. But our lawn sign was missing. So I was kind of upset. I emailed them again and asked what was going on, and they said that they would handle it. I just asked if they wanted us to control the bulletin board or if they wanted to. They said they will handle it. Okay, so the second week of the farmer's market, we are beginning to set up, and I had reached out to them again about this dog bag dispenser. They showed up. They being Therea Sachs, and I would assume her husband, we did not get introductions. She came in like Miley Cyrus, a damn wrecking ball. She took our lawn sign. She removed it, even though I had permission for the summer.
She started immediately yelling.
Yeah, why don't you fill them in on that?
Okay, so she started immediately yelling, and she went to the bulletin board. She had pulled the lawn sign, which was right next to the bulletin board, and Courtney asked what she was doing. She walked over to Courtney, and I heard her say, "I can appreciate what you're doing, but you won't be putting anything in that bulletin board." I kind of was like, okay, well, they don't own the bulletin board. So I was already kind of confused. She came back, and I mean, there was already arguing going on. It was already starting to get heated because she came in so hot and heavy. She went to go take the signs out of the bulletin board because there was a farmer's market sign in the bulletin board. And I went up and I was like, I just want to let you know you guys don't own the bulletin board. You guys own the dog bag dispenser, but the bulletin board is a shared thing between us and Envision Rumford and people who want to put stuff in there. immediately started yelling at me, telling me that we can't touch it. They own everything. It's no longer ours. She has a deal. She has a contract. And screaming at me. Now, everybody knows, don't yell at me because I will yell back. So I started yelling back at her. Chris had to get in the middle of this because it went that fast and that loud. Chris explained to her the situation, and that's when the first accusation was dropped.
So she was at the bulletin board. She had already removed our lawn sign, and she was going into the bulletin board to remove
The farmer's market
the
paper
farmer's market
flyer.
paper. I got between her and Jess and split them up, and she was screaming in my face. And I said, I built this, right? You don't have the right to do this. That's when I looked at the bulletin board and realized that they had also scraped my stickers off the bulletin board that I had built.
The ink and gas kill.
The Inkman and the Gas Kill Productions logos. So I said, I built this, right? And she said, well, who are you? And I said, I'm Chris House. And then right there is where the first accusation came. Right in front of everybody. She screamed right in my face that Brookfield donated the Pumpkin Fest stage and I took it for my own personal good. All right, so uneducated at your finest.
That's
all right?
the stage.
So she had never been in Envision Rumford. She didn't know the history of Envision Rumford. And the minutes do not talk about Pumpkin Fest because Envision Rumford did not own Pumpkin Fest. We owned Pumpkin Fest after the first 2 years. So she has no knowledge of this. I think she got some misinformation from Bev Susie because I did a little bit of background digging and she was a little bit incorrect in some of her statements there. So I tried to educate all of them, but either way, she, without asking, accused me of theft of a stage from Pumpkin Fest. So we bought that stage off of a gentleman who built it for a deck for his camper. We bought it the year after COVID because we were going into the festival with money that was left over from the year before when we couldn't do it. We also had a lot of restrictions, so we couldn't do things like bounce houses and rock walls and stuff where people could touch because COVID was still going on. So we had all this sponsor money coming in. We had money left over. We decided, hey, our stage was wood and rotten. We're going to buy this stage. We have proof of it. We bought it off Marketplace. I don't know where this accusation of a stage getting donated from Brookfield ever came from. It did come up at a meeting one time years and years and years ago.
In 2019, I went through the meeting minutes. In 2019, the only thing that was stated was Chris said that eventually for the future, we would either have to repair our previous wooden stage that was hand-built by us and my family, or we would have to replace it with something more durable and better that would last more years. There was discussion, as there is in any group, and it's not even in the minutes because it did not get discussed that far into depth, but somebody did say that they would talk to Brookfield about possibly getting a donation. That never went through. That never happened. And that was in 2019.
Yeah, the only donation that we've ever received from Brookfield for any event was one year I messaged them about the river run. And they said, yeah, you can use the river whenever you want. You don't need to ask permission. You can hit us up to see when we flood it. And then they sent us $750 randomly. I didn't ask for it. They just sent it to us. And we gave them a $500 sponsorship that they didn't even know about. I handed them a plaque afterwards and they had no idea. So they never donated a stage. They didn't even know what they donated to. So that's the end of that. But that's where the first accusation came in. And it's not a lie. It was right to my face in front of a lot of people. After that, I was still laughing. I wasn't even mad. Actually, vendors there complimented me for how well I handled the situation because it was such a joke that I couldn't stop laughing. Literally, she got ran out of that farmer's market because every vendor was yelling at her to leave because she was so angry and spiteful, and she left with her cackling little witch laugh as she pulled off.
Oh,
and
hard.
that was the end of that. It kind of ruined our day. We were trying to laugh it off. 20 minutes later, I will give her credit because she did message me and she did message Courtney an apology. She said we should work together on these festivals and we should do this. And she did give me an apology. If she would have stayed that course, things would be a lot different today, I'll tell you. But she did not. We went back and forth. And then the next day, we were sitting on the river and we saw a post that Envision Rumford put up. They had gone down. They had weed whacked. They had cleaned up the area, which was great. They also painted the bulletin board blue and white without permission. They also put a picture up of it on their Envision Rumford page with rules that are just ridiculous. And here's where the story gets interesting. So We found out, even though we had permission to use that dirt lot to put a farmer's market sign throughout the whole summer, she contacted the landowner from a town selectman perspective and asked to take control or maintain that corner lot. He granted her permission. Now, he granted her permission to maintain the little flower garden and the bulletin board, but she took it upon herself to maintain that whole entire dirt lot. And she put up on Envision Rumford a lot of rules that she does not have the right to do. She posted that nobody can park in that lot without written permission of Envision Rumford. Nobody can put signs in there without permission. Nobody can place a lawn sign except the day of the event, and yada, 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 yada. I left a little comment on that post saying, why did you remove my stickers? These rules aren't appropriate. It's not even your lot to make that decision. Then another lawn sign of ours went missing. So 2 lawn signs got stolen and a police report was filed. It was not filed by us. It was filed by the woman that ran the farmer's market. The police were involved. The police did return one of our signs, and Envision Rumford was told you are no longer allowed on that property from the insurance company. Now, they also told us that we will no longer have permission or freedom of access to that bulletin board as well. If we want to advertise in there, we just need to drop it off in their office, and we have full right to use their parking lot because we just sent them an insurance waiver for Pumpkin Fest. So she used her town powers to overstep her boundaries, to take permission of a lot that she doesn't have ownership of, just to stop us from advertising an event that we're supporting. So in the same weekend, this is where the 2 things fall into place. She accused us of theft, and she used her town powers to overstep her authority over a place she doesn't even own. This is where the story got crazy. This is where we got mad. And then, after talking to a couple town people, I'm not going to mention which selectmen, and I'm not going to mention names here, but it was brought to our attention that she also found out about the permit, and that we had used Beautify Rumford for the previous year, and that we had all the funds come through our event company, which we do with all of our events, our tattoo expo, everything. Maybe it's something they don't realize. They may host these little events and they may host these little things. This is our job. This event hosting company is our job. They may think they might put a couple hours here and there at a festival. For 3 months, I've been in this room for 40 hours a week working on this festival. I personally lose a ton of money from my businesses because I'm focused on this festival, which I love. But they think that we shouldn't run this festival as a for-profit event. They have the right to that opinion. That's totally understandable. But we print everything and we pay for it. And I give the festival a hell of a deal, I'll tell you. We take a little bit of money off the top, but the $500 doesn't compare to the $10,000 we lose in revenue. I'll tell you that, if you want me to be honest. They went to the town and accused us of tax fraud because we used Beautify Rumford, but the money didn't go through Beautify Rumford. The town told them, that's not a town issue. If that's what you believe, then you report it, but that's fine. It's just kind of a wild accusation to us, and I felt bad for Steph Reed, who runs Beautify Rumford, because she did nothing but good in this situation, and she felt so offended by a group that never even talked to her about it. So that's where the next accusation came in. Following that, we wrote this insane letter. Jess took her whole week in rage mode and focused on a very...
timelines going through years of minutes of Envision Rumford. Years. We had a select board meeting for our permit on July 18th. And I felt, because of the accusations, it was necessary to have this timeline to squash everything and make them realize that not to believe everything you hear and misinformation from people who don't know the actual history. So I wrote this timeline up. It is the entire history of Pumpkin Fest starting in 2012 when it started with Envision Rumford. And it is just bullet points through the years. And in that, because they accused the whole thing of tax fraud from through getting the permit through a nonprofit, what they didn't realize is Envision Rumford used to do the same. So ultimately, they accused us of this, and they didn't even know the history that they themselves have always done this for Gaskill Productions. until that permit was waived. But that was always the deal with them, is they got the permit under their nonprofit, we passed the funds. They didn't know this, so that was why I made this, to squash these rumors and inform them of the actual facts of the situation and the groups. And after this, we thought this would be the end of it. We had not heard anything else. We thought this would be the end of it. It had the stage information on there because of that accusation. It had what Envision gave us when we were handed Pumpkin Fest, which was quite literally a plastic tote of bows for the light poles.
Right.
That was it.
It had everything. We thought it squashed it all, and we hadn't heard anything in a while. I brought it to the selectmen meeting. When we got everything approval, they asked their questions. Everything was fine. Teresa and Frank voted against Pumpkin Fest, which is fine. They have their own right to vote for however they want. But
To touch base on that really quick, though.
they did not give any reasoning, which I find very ridiculous. And
So the reasoning now, we've been informed because Teresa has made multiple posts about this.
Yep.
The reason she voted against Pumpkin Fest was because of the ordinance. The ordinance stating that you have to be a nonprofit in order to host a public event like this. However, that ordinance was changed last year to accommodate
us. Yeah.
us.
When Stacy
and our
Carter
company.
was town manager, he didn't agree that it should be a nonprofit and that he thought a business should, like myself, should be able to take out the festival permit. They changed it in November so that any business could take out the festival permit.
So it does not apply to this year.
Which allowed us to get the permit. But we had already started the course from the fight the year before to start our own nonprofit. We talked to people. We got the ball rolling because we always have multiple benefits going in this town. So it was time. When we applied for this year's permit, we put it under the nonprofit, under permission and guidance from the town secretary said it was okay, as well as Franklin Savings Bank and LegalZoom and everybody that we checked with said if the paperwork was en route and you had the official go-ahead from the state of Maine and you were just waiting for IRS, you could use it to apply for things. Golden. So we put it under ACES, our brand new nonprofit. Where was I going with that?
I do not know.
We brought that letter to the selectmen meeting. Teresa asked us about the nonprofit. I filled her in on the information that it was en route, and now it is all finalized. We are 100% legal, ready to go, good to go. Our first event is this year's Pumpkin Fest under the nonprofit. We thought everything was squashed after this letter. We didn't hear anything. We didn't hear any backlash. We may have lost a few friends in the process, but those friends were middlemen that can choose a side, and that's fine. That's their own.
And again, they're
opinion.
ill-informed of the actual facts.
Some of them, yes. But that's fine. That's their right. I walked into the town hall last Thursday to buy benches for our photo spots that we're going to do, which is going to be a big new part of Pumpkin Fest. They were selling benches from the auditorium. Everybody knows I love Rumford. I was like, benches, we need them. History, sucker. I was there. I walked in to buy those. I found out that there was a few talks about Pumpkin Fest. I got pulled into the town manager's office. Now, this is where it's important to know that the Rumford rumor mill, yes, is crazy. But that's why we're defending ourselves, and that's why I'm fighting this so hard. She's saying that we're liars. Frank calls us liars, and he shakes his head up on that podium. But everything was to our face, right to us. This wasn't bar talk or street talk or whatever. This was in the city hall. This was downtown, in our face.
Right? Town
Everything has witnesses.
Like,
when the tax fraud thing came, I spoke on the phone with one of the selectmen for a half an hour who informed me that it is not a town problem, that we are safe, and to go ahead with what we were planning. That day that I bought benches, I got pulled into the town manager's office. We were talking about issues. I go to City Hall all the time. I'm down there all the time. That's when it got brought to our attention that the reason that they're coming after us, not only because of what we've been accused of, is that we not only have our hands in the drug world, that we had some involvement with our friend Corey's death from 2 years ago. So that hurt.
That's where it went bad for us, and that's why we chose not to stay silent anymore. Because you can fight theft rumors, you can fight tax fraud rumors, those can all be proven. This is our reputation in our businesses now, and that one hurt because if you were there, you know why it hurt and why it sucked.
Maybe people like her, and we found out days later when I stormed City Hall in a fit of rage and tears Monday morning and met with the police again and met with the town manager again and made some major requests for information so that we can defend ourselves. That's when I found out that this was led by Frank DiConzo, this whole drug accusation. This isn't street rumors. This is information I found out in City Hall. That's why this hurts. And that's why we put this out before they put this out. I hate that this has to come out before Pumpkin Fest, before our biggest event. But I have nothing to hide. I work with every single town entity in this group.
Including all the ones fighting drugs.
Including all the ones fighting drugs. We're on that battle against drugs. Not only do we team up with the fire department, the police department, the parks department, the highway department, these people are here. These people see me daily. These people are my friends. They are in my business every day. I help them in this community. We help them in this community every single day. We're friends with people at, I'm not going to mention names, but the people fighting the war on this drugs, we help them. We do benefits to help these people. We just hosted a huge mud run with the company to raise tens of thousands of dollars to put people in sobriety homes. To accuse us of being on drugs and having a hand in this stuff hurt us so ridiculously bad. That's the reason this came out, and I'm not going to stand for it. They're coming after my life. They're coming after our jobs. Now I'm going after theirs, and that's what this has come down to. I don't care what it's going to take. I don't care if it's going to take legal action. It's in the works. I don't want to sue the town. And all the people saying Chris House for selectmen, jeez, I appreciate that. And the hundreds of messages that I can't even keep up with because I'm trying to plan this festival. We super appreciate you guys. We hear it and we see it. The proof is out there. And we appreciate everybody. I know that I put out there that I'm kind of on strike. I'm not going to do these big things if it's a fight. And it hurts us, it hurts you, it hurts the townspeople. But I'm not going to put ourselves in a position to let people like Teresa and Frank make decisions for us. Whether we need to move stuff, whether we need to cancel stuff, whatever we need to do. Those two cancers up on that board are a virus for this town. And I'm not going to do anything until they're gone.
They may think there's no repercussions to this, but when we're out in town, the first accusation of theft, it wasn't just of a stage. There was prior persons talking, saying that we stole Pumpkin Fest. That accumulated with being accused of theft in front of multiple vendors at a farmer's market. It's not like it just stayed silent. People were coming up to us and asking us what was going on.
Yeah.
We were constantly having to defend ourselves and explain the history of Envision Rumford and Pumpkin Fest and Gas Steel Productions. So when it came to this situation with the drug thing, I had enough. I told him I'm not gonna have people questioning my sobriety while I'm walking through a store.
Right. You know, there's two reasons why we've stopped going out in town. And I dearly, dearly apologize to those restaurants that we support multiple times a week. And those owners and those workers know that we're there all the time. We have almost stopped going out because we can't go anywhere without 10 people stopping us, asking us, what the hell's going on? Why are these people trying to take these things from me? Why is this? Why is that? Why is this rumor? And nobody believes them. We have nothing to hide. I'm not saying I do everything perfect. I'm not saying that we're perfect people.
If there was any truth
But don't come at me when I've been doing the things that the town managers, I've done this fest over 3 town managers and under the guidance of the town lawyer, when she ran Envision Rumford with respectable people for 7 years, we've done everything that they've told us to do. And we have nothing but support from all of those people.
And if there was any truth to what they're saying, if these accusations were in fact real, truths, and that we were really guilty of any of them, we would not be screaming as loud as we are to defend ourselves through this.
Right. I will fight
we
for
would be
what's
trying to
ours.
keep it as quiet as possible, and anybody who knows us knows that.
So now everybody's asking us what's going to happen with Pumpkin Fest. We don't know.
don't know.
We don't know. I'm not going to set a date for next year because I'm not going to give those two people that are against me and us and our whole crew, I'm not going to give them the right to predict anything. And this is another thing. This is another why we're going after Frank DiConzo. The day after we got our permit accepted, we probably should have talked about this.
Oh yeah, we
the
totally
day
forgot
after
about this,
we
which
got
would have been July
our
19th.
our permit approved by the selectmen, which was a vote 3-2, which is fine. They called it a victory. People have called it a victory. Too close to call for me.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for a decade, and it's been 5-0 every time I've asked for everything. So I was kind of blown away. They have the right to their own decision, but not state a reason and then to backpedal after and say, oh, the festival should be at the fields and that the festival shouldn't be downtown and blah, 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 blah.
We've outgrown Congress Street.
Frank DiConzo does not have the right to go around to our vendors and tell them that this will be the last festival downtown and that we've disturbed businesses and that businesses have complained and that we shouldn't have the right to shut the streets and stuff. Well, you can go ask the town manager. He told us he's never heard one complaint about this festival. There's not one business that we haven't heard a complaint from and not done everything in our power to help them. We've heard very, very little complaints about them. And if Frank thinks that we don't have support of the businesses downtown, why don't you come and check our paperwork? Because we raised over $3,300 in sponsorships from businesses just on the island, including every bank and every big place down there. So how do we not have support down there? And then they backpedaled and said that we should be at the fields and we should be at 3 fields and stuff like that. Well, you know what? We've been there twice. Maybe those selectmen weren't there, but we did that festival twice. It was the hardest years for us. Our crew absolutely did not like the field. The Parks Department was in total agreement. They did not like us there.
It is sports season, and that much cars going on the field to get their vendor stuff set up.
Yep.
All of that did create ruts in the field, which is a hazard to our field hockey teams and our kids that are doing sports in the fall. They have to go and fix the field. This is why it did not work.
I will not deny the fact that we damaged that field. We absolutely did.
And we didn't do it intentionally, obviously.
We did our best to clean it
ground.
up, but we had tons and tons of issues. I could sit here for hours talking about it. Downtown is the place for Pumpkin Fest, or I don't think we can do it. And them saying we need to go to 3 fields. Well, we can move it to 3 fields, but there's more issues there and no room for parking. I could talk about this for an hour. I have requested.
And the Parks Department agrees with that.
Parks Department agrees with that. Talk with them. And they have never talked to the Parks Department about moving the festival there. So they have no right to tell us or tell our vendors that this will be the last year downtown because of their reasonings. They do not have that right. The board votes as one, and they cannot make decisions or even suggestions. They can't even make a suggestion to move it downtown. They should talk to us or talk to the Parks Department and not post it online and hold it over our heads. They know nothing about what we've gone through. So shame on them, honestly. But
And prior to this, Frank has never voted against Pumpkin Fest.
yeah,
Prior to this, Frank has never once voted against the permit, Pumpkin Fest, closures of the streets, anything like that.
I've never even talked to Frank. Frank's never given us a reason for voting against it. The only time I've ever met Frank was at the downtown celebration after the whole entire construction project. He came up to me, shook my hand, and thanked me and spit food on my chest. So, yeah, I'm really impressed with your board skills. Both of you, it's time to go. And I'm kind of done until you are, because there are things that we can adjust. It's going to hurt the townspeople, but there are 2 towns now aiming to take Pumpkin Fest. The Androscoggin runs from Errol to the ocean. We can move our river run to any town, and I'm sure they would be glad to have us, and our crew will follow. So you're just going to hurt the townspeople. It's either you go or we're on strike. I hate to say that, but the holidays are coming. I hate the holidays. Everybody knows that, but you don't understand what we do for both towns, all the towns around here.
There are events we don't
behind
run
the
that we
scenes
still have a hand
for
in.
the holidays. I dare them to be a bigger part of the community than we are, because they're not out there like we are, and everybody knows that. This is why we're fighting them, and I don't want to run for selectmen. I don't want their jobs. I just don't want them to have them. That's what it is. I know as an individual that I don't have the education to be up on that board. I don't have all the information that I need to be sitting up on that board. And maybe they need to look themselves in the mirror and say that same exact thing to themselves. because they are uneducated and they're crossing lines, and I'm not going to step down because you know what? Through all this, our support system from high powers and from our friends and from every entity in this town is so strong and powerful that my business has booked more work. My business is thriving now. They thought that they were going to hurt us, and if you're going to stoop down to bring drugs into this to hurt us, and people know that is extremely false, you have done nothing but fuel our fire. I have nothing to lose at this point. I have nothing to lose. The townspeople has stuff to lose. So I appreciate your support, and let's get them out of office because I'm not going to stand for it, and I will never give them the authority to make decisions over us, which sucks. It makes me worried for the future because we bring good things to this town, and we have plans for another business that will blow everybody's minds. And with that future business will come permissions. That makes me nervous if these people are going to come at us over these little things. So,
and there is stuff people can do. People keep asking what they can do to help. Start getting involved. Go to the select board meetings.
right,
They're every other Thursday. You don't have to say anything. You can just make a presence.
right,
But those meetings are pretty empty most of the time. And those meetings also dictate sometimes what people in our community are allowed to do and not allowed to do. The night we went to go get our permit, they were doing ordinance changes, including changing the ordinance back to having to be a nonprofit. We were never informed of
late.
that, but we are a nonprofit.
I will end with this.
Start
Yes.
getting involved.
We will be at every selectman meeting, and I will be, in the funnest way possible, pulling reasons why I believe Frank and Teresa should not be at each meeting. I mean, should not be at the select board. They're meeting their demise, I believe, and we will follow through. I have nothing to lose. I will end with this. I appreciate everybody's support. The system that we've grown here is amazing, and we love and appreciate all of you. If you've made it this far, we thank you for listening, and we hope you appreciate the stories that we are trying to entertain you with. I'm not going to be angry anymore. She's gotten the best of me, and I let her win, but we've won every battle, and we will win the war, because either way, we have a solution that we love. We won the Battle of Pumpkin Fest last year. We have won the Battle of Pumpkin Fest this year, and we will continue the battles. We appreciate your support, and we love you guys. Yeah.